Hey guys, welcome to Gen Next Door Podcast. I'm Jennifer Otero. I started this podcast to highlight the stories of local business owners, entrepreneurs, and creatives on how they started their businesses, advice they offer, and what they are doing to make a difference in the community. This is a safe space for like-minded people who want to be inspired and get motivated to live their dreams, all while giving back no matter how small. I'm right there with you, so let's do this. Hi, everyone. My guest today is a powerful woman. She is a sustainable leader in the Phoenix community and is the president for the Arizona Sustainable Apparel Association. She's also started a podcast called Changes Now. She's also a mother of 3 girls, so she's a powerful woman. She empowers me and others like myself to live more consciously and work to make an impact in the community through education. So let's welcome Stella Abril. How are you?
Hi, Jen. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much for talking to me today. You're actually my first guest, so I'm excited.
Woo!
Yay. I'm a little bit nervous, so bear with me.
No worries. We're here.
So I kind of just wanted to summarize what is Changes Now podcast and what do you do as a president for the ASAA?
Sure. So, Changes Now is really like an Instagram platform and a podcast for all things sustainable fashion and beauty. It's really my attempt at sharing my journey through sustainable fashion with my listeners in hopes of maybe like providing information that they wouldn't necessarily hear anywhere else. And as for AZSAA, we work to highlight and showcase the sustainable apparel brands here in Arizona. And then we educate the community, right? Just sharing information. So again, just, created 2 platforms for brands to share their products and services with our community.
That's amazing. Well, I want to hear a little bit more detail a little bit later, but I just want to talk about you as a person, as a human. Can you tell me like a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, and what you wanted to be when you were younger?
Sure. I grew up here. I'm an Arizona native. I grew up in Phoenix, actually, in Peoria. So I really didn't know what I wanted to be growing up. I
Same.
had yeah.
I
I
still
had
don't
no
know.
idea. Yeah, I still don't know. So I had like zero idea what sustainability was. I don't think I ever even heard that term thrown around like in my family or my friends. I was like I think in my 30s, 30 something, before I heard that. And so I really didn't know what or who I wanted to be. I do feel like I always knew that I was meant for something big, right? To make an impact. I just didn't know like what that looked like. No matter what I did, if I, went and took extra classes or if I studied something, I always thought like there's got to be more. Like I got to be doing more. I just never knew what that was. And plus, I didn't have a whole lot of confidence. Growing up, I was a quieter kid, and so I didn't really know who I was or what I stood for, no like core values to know what I wanted to be. So.
Yeah. I've always loved fashion. When I was younger in high school, I took some classes and college as well. And there wasn't a lot of talk about sustainability or the process of clothes, how they're
Mhm.
made, how much it takes. But now I've come to realize there's a lot that goes into it. And it's
So
just incredible
much.
that there's not more awareness to it.
Yeah, it is. It's nuts.
Yeah. So I also read that you have worked on self-development through therapy. I'm also in therapy right now, and it's a little like taboo thing to talk about, but I just want to normalize it. So can you talk a little bit about that and how therapy has helped you overcome obstacles and has gotten you to where you are now?
Yes. Oh Lord, therapy. I feel like I've lived in therapy since I was like 19, 20 years old. And so I don't know. I just feel like it's been a long time coming. And so a lot of what you see today has really been so many years of work. I am like a huge proponent of therapy, and I'll say it's not like it's not like the end all be all, right? It requires a lot of work on your end. And so I think people get this idea of therapy that you go and then they fix you, right? When in reality, you go and you fix you. That's really what that is. They're just there to help you dig and heal yourself. And therapy really was my like first experience with accountability. Like I had never had anybody hold me accountable before. So I initially went into it, like I want to say like lying to myself about who I was, or not even knowing who I was, going into it thinking like this is the person I think I am, but really that's not who I was. So, my life was like a huge mess when I first started. Oh my gosh, my life is so messy. My choices are so messy, but I have no idea why, that type of thing, right? And it wasn't until I met, I think she was like my third therapist who made me take a hard look in the mirror and just like come to terms with who I was in that moment. So she was very frank and very blunt, but I needed that to grow. So from that point she helped me get like real honest about who I was so that I could work on who I wanted to become, right? So eventually she moved, but she was like the foundation for my growth. So one, if you're a therapist, like don't be afraid to call your patient out on their BS and hold them accountable, right? And then two, if you're a patient, be honest. You won't be able to like heal until you're ready to get real about who you are in this moment. All of your flaws, like bring them all up to the surface and get real about who you are, so that they can help you work towards who you want to become. I feel like, I don't know, there have been like a number of like these little golden nuggets that I've taken away from therapy that I still use to this day. I feel like I've had a number of therapists and life coaches like throughout the years, and I need the accountability. So if you think in terms of someone who's able to help you identify like these blind spots that we all have, they're like a partner in your healing, right? So it makes things a lot easier. So most of us go through life, without anyone to hold us accountable, sort of like marching to this, like the beat of your own drum. And it really helps to have someone you can like talk to and point things out, and you may not be aware of some of that stuff, and then also provide you with coping tools. I feel like, I don't know, I never grew up knowing what coping was. I didn't have coping tools. So I don't know, you have to be ready to change or you're wasting your own time with therapy. But I think it's an amazing tool. I think everyone should be in therapy.
I do too.
Yes.
I've like I've only done it a couple of months now, but it's like helped me so much already.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the reasons I'm here talking
Yeah.
to you right now. So
Yeah,
crazy.
it's an amazing tool for life. Like we all need help. I promise. There's damage that all of us needs, we need to heal. So yeah, utilize resources around you, therapists, life coach, mentors, people that can help guide you.
And besides therapy and a therapist, do you have other mentors in your life? Have you ever tried business coaching?
Yes, yeah, I do. I have a couple of people who I really really admire for how they live their life, right? I have one for like just how they like live personally, and another one that actually is a business entrepreneur, that I she's like my go-to for everything. One, the business one, she's a life coach, and I did this like a women's leadership cohort with her, and she has changed my life in more ways than she probably knows. She is my like go-to sort of help me process through those moments where like I get in my own way and I have these like mental roadblocks. So she's just really open and really allows you to like define what you need on your own. Just a really, really good life coach. No judgment, no bias, just super open, just good at what she does. So I don't know. I feel like that's one thing, whether it's a personal coach or a business coach, you really want to make sure that they're accepting you for where you are in your journey, and then they help you to be really consistent, out of love and accountability, right? So my life coach, she's not afraid to call me out when she sees that I have a lot of BS going on. So, and the way she lives her life is also like amazing. Lots of peace, isn't afraid to like use her voice for peace. She also has a strong voice. So I'm not sure if that makes sense, but she's a really good light in my life. I feel like I can pick on her for both personal and business, but yeah, she's definitely pretty successful business wise.
That's really nice to have in your life.
Yeah.
How did that conversation go? Like to be able to have her as like a mentor.
Sure. I feel like it happened organically. Like all of the people who I, turn to for advice or mentorship, all of those relationships happened just really naturally. I took that women's leadership cohort and, she led it. And I don't know, something that entire year, every time we met monthly, but every time we met, we just really clicked. And I felt like she understood me, I understood her. It was just a really good connection. You know how you just when you meet somebody, like, oh, wow, this is a really cool person. Like they seem really chill, no judgment. Like, I like this. This is new for me. I'm not used to having people like her in my life, so I had to really curate my mentors, just choose carefully.
Talking about that, what motivates you? What's that thing that had just made you just go, it's time to start a podcast?
Yeah, my kids, my girls, my family, right? Like I began to take a long, hard look at my life and what I was teaching my girls. And I was teaching them really to live on the surface. And I don't want to do that. Another huge factor for me was like all of the social injustice involved in the fashion industry. Like how did we get to this point? Like where we are just so focused on profits that we forget that we are dealing with other human beings. So that part was like heartbreaking. It became like the fire to fuel my podcast. I really did. When I first started researching sustainable fashion and just found out about like garment workers, farmers, and like lack of rights and lack of pay and lack of quality of life, I feel like I went through a small period of like depression because I don't know. I feel like I was so ignorant to what was happening, on the other end of fashion. I had no idea. And it's so heartbreaking hearing some of those stories. So for me, I used that as fuel for me to want to, share the knowledge, share things that I knew, like, okay, this isn't working. How can I share as much info as possible with others to create awareness and drive radical change? How can I do that? So, it's just that. And then too, like I feel like every time I get scared, I think the amount of fear I have right now, or when I get tired or weary, the amount of tired that I am experiencing in this moment is nothing compared to what other people are going through. Like they're suffering through life, so I can pull my crap together and I can just do this, right? So that's how I think.
I feel like we think alike.
Yeah.
I I've always been like an empath, like
Yeah.
have a lot of empathy towards everybody, cry for every commercial that's sad. Like um
Yep. Yep.
and so that's why I kind of wanted to start this podcast and talk to like social entrepreneurs, like how are they making a difference in the community? Because we're all human, we all suffer, some more than others, and it's just like really sad to see.
Yeah.
And everyone just tells you the problems. Oh, there's global warming, but doesn't really try to solve it. Or
Right.
so with your podcast changes now, how'd you come up with the name?
Well, I mean, it sounds like so cliche, but like for me, it had everything to do with how I just dove into this. Like you say, wow, this is a big lifestyle change, right? Let me plan. Let me start, planning to live more sustainably. Most people don't just do it, I'll start next week, that type of thing, right? But when I just I felt like I had that like inner dialogue and I was like, no, we need to do this now. Like I need to start making changes right now, right here. And so that name Changes Now really came from knowing that if something doesn't happen right now and we don't like dive into making changes in this very moment, the end result is going to be very, very devastating. So that's kind of where that came from.
Was it like your first try, or were there other names before that?
No, that it was that. And like I've had people like try to talk me out of that name, like, oh, that's not different, and I'm like, okay, it's what aligns. Like I tell people too, like when I do any coaching or mentorship, I tell people, don't try to like satisfy the masses, right? And don't try to be qualified according to other people. Try to work on being aligned. It's what feels right to you, because there's a reason that it's put on your heart the way that it comes out. And so for me, like Changes Now was like just there. It was something I like dreamt of. It was something that sat so heavy on my heart. And I'm like, no, this is it. This is what it is. I don't get to choose it. It was just, this is how it was sent in my brain. This is how it's going to, this is what it's going to be. So,
Yeah, you'll never make everybody happy, so might as well make yourself
no.
happy.
I mean, yeah, it's about aligning. It's what feels right as you go through like your journey.
To talk about a little bit more about the podcast and ASAA, what's your mission for those two?
Sure. So, Changes Now, our mission is to really like gently empower people to start making changes right now, wherever they are in their journey, right? Just to start. And then AZSAA is, our mission is to empower Arizona's economy to really like rise together as leaders for change. So we support the sustainable ethical fashion industry as a whole by like nurturing connections with Arizona brands, fashion, environmental organizations, consumers, stakeholders to really like embrace sustainability as a whole.
Okay. What are some of the businesses that are you're associated with or
There's
that you help
actually
out?
Sure. There's actually a lot. So we search for sustainable brands here in Arizona. We have featured so many, and our lead list is super, super long. But some of the local brands that you'll see is like Redemption Market, Shop Revari. We've done Cocoa Honey Designs. There's so many. So I feel like just trying to hunt them out is the hard part, because some of them are like hidden gems,
Yeah.
Vintage by Design, that's another one. Nash Vintage Collective, it's another one. There's so many.
Well, it's a good thing that you're doing that. So I can just
Mm,
have like a central location to find all these um businesses because it's kind of hard. You just go to like the big corporation like Target. I'm not saying
yeah,
that it's bad, but like
it's bad.
it's easy.
It's bad. I have an app that's like my go-to. I feel like I need easy, right? Like I have this, it's called the Good Human app.
Okay.
It is like my go-to. It's become like my new Amazon, right? So anytime the girls need like hair care or beauty stuff or anything, a shaver, like anything, I go to this Good Human app, and they have like a ton of these companies that they've already vetted and put together for you. And they have them laid out by like values. If, like one of your core values is, no animal testing, you can, filter down the products that, don't test on animals. If one of it is eco-friendly and one of them is ethical, that you can filter down by all of your values to find the brands that align with that. So it's made it really easy. It's been my go-to for absolutely everything. So
Oh wow, I'm gonna check that out because I
yes,
need
download it.
that.
Download it.
So, what did the first couple of weeks look like in your podcast and ASAA? What is like, was it difficult to start? What were the obstacles?
It was a mess. It was a
The whole
mess.
thing.
Yeah, like I mean, like as with anything, right? Like when you have all of these ideas flowing, it's really like, I don't know, for me, maybe it's just a scatterbrained mess. So it took a lot of really like jotting down all of the ideas that came to me and really refining them. I don't think it wasn't difficult. I think I got in my own way a few times. I allowed fear to talk me out of doing things the way that I wanted to, here and there, but finally I just had to like pack fear up and take her with me, and like, we're doing this, so let's just jump in. I don't care if it's pretty, I don't care if it's perfect, we got to get started. And so I gave myself like no time to think about it, because the more I analyze, the more I'm like, oh, hold on, this isn't going to work. So I just had to dive in, and then I'll think about it later. I'll fix it later. Right. That's kind of how I function right now. So really had to let go of perfection and tell myself this is not going to be perfect. It's just not. In fact, it's going to be ugly as hell, but let's just do it, because F what people think, focus on the impact. I just need to get the info out there. That's it, you know?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. You just start. It
You
doesn't
do.
even matter. Just do it and then
Yeah.
you'll learn as you go.
Promise. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so you're a president, and how did that go about? Like, how'd you manage that?
Yeah. So, it's just like I said, it's alignment, right? There was a gal that I met a few years back in like a leadership program. Her and I connected again in another like women's empowerment program years later. And I was already studying like sustainable fashion stuff, and she was studying it like formally in school. And we went to dinner one day and just started talking about it. And one thing led to another. And she already had like an organization put together, and she decided that she wanted to move on to something different. And so I decided that I would take that over, and we rebranded it to AZSAA. And really, I don't know, it's just picked up momentum since I started building the board and just carefully picking people to be on the board with me, people who had really good energy, people who jived well, people who were just as passionate about sustainable fashion. And it's just been nonstop since.
What I hear from all these stories is that networking is
Yeah.
important.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Relationships, connections, like reaching out to as many different people as possible. You're going to see with the podcast, as you meet tons of different people, you're going to be able to like file them into like your little address book, and then, call on them later down the road when you have different initiatives and stuff. So it's cool.
Yeah. That's one of my goals.
Yes. Yes. I'm here. So let me know. I would love to be able to like come alongside you and support anything that you're working on.
So, what's been the most rewarding part of your journey so far?
Um, Really, I feel like I want to say like the impact that I've seen already, right? Like building the board and watching them like flourish and work together for, all for the same goal, right? That's been amazing. And pulling together the community, that has been so good. But not only that, I feel um like the impact just within my family alone, like my kids, they know what living sustainably is. They don't know any different, to be honest, and they really challenge me with good questions, and they want to know why things are happening the way that they happen. They know the good, the bad, the ugly of the fashion industry, of every industry. We talk about the chocolate industry, the phone industry, the shoe industry. We talk about all of these different industries and how they function, and all of the things that happen in the back end that we don't see. And watching my kids grow mentally and emotionally has been by far, like hands down, the best thing in the entire world.
May I ask how old they are?
Sure. I have a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
Yeah, at that age, I knew nothing.
I know.
I was just
Same.
playing with like Legos or something.
I know. I know. So it's so cool to just see, like, even my little one, like, I can't get into like depth with her, but she knows, like, using your voice to stand up for others. This is what we're doing. We're fighting for other people's rights, and we use our voice because we have a strong voice. And, fortifying those types of things and that thought process in a 6-year-old. And it's just so cool. It is.
Yeah. So I saw that there were a couple of petitions on your website. Can you tell
Yes.
me a little bit about those?
Yeah. So the pay up petition was created last March due to like a number of brands that refuse to pay for like already completed orders going into this whole like pandemic thing, right? And so I think it was like, I don't know, I want to say like $40 billion worth of clothing that had already been manufactured and delivered. So it caused like millions of garment workers to like lose their jobs because there was no pay, right?
Oh my
So
God.
yes, it's devastating. So by signing that petition, it really helps to build momentum for the movement, so brands can pay their workers. That's the first one. And then the second one was for the Garment Worker Protection Act. It's called SB 62, and it's in California. So that petition is really a huge huge driver for legislative change that really helps to end sweatshops and exploitation of workers in LA because it's really prevalent there in Los Angeles. So it eliminates the piece rate and enforces like actual minimum wage. So it holds Browns accountable. So if they underpay, it increases enforcement of wage laws in the entire supply chain. So that's what that's for.
Wow, everyone should go and
Yes,
sign
go
up.
sign. Yes.
Um, I'm gonna say I'm a little bit ignorant on things like that. But I do want to learn more. So, what do you suggest I read or watch to stay informed? And the
Yeah.
listeners too.
For sure. So, I mean, there's a lot of really good like podcasts, right? Conscious Chatter is a really, really good one. I listen to that one. You can listen to mine, Changes Now. I feel like I give a lot of really good basics. Conscious Chatter gives there's a lot of really good, like controversial topics that she dives into. So it's kind of neat to listen to that. But really, I would say as many things as you possibly can get your hands on. Like I try to read everything. Like I read every book I can get my hands on, every article, every documentary. If I can find one on sustainable fashion, I'm going to watch it because so many of them are mind blowing. Like I feel like a good first one is True Cost. Have you seen that?
No,
No.
but
So
that's gonna be on my list now.
yes, watch that before you watch anything else. And then you can reach out to me for a list of more because there's so
Okay.
many good ones. True Cost is a good starting point, for sure. But I just feel like just fill your brain with as many things as possible, even if they're small articles. I started this sustainable fashion mastermind group as well, and it's global, it's around the world. So we're in like this pilot cohort now. I'm still working on refining it and adding, more value to it. But I have learned so much from talking to people in the industry, like so much. The sustainable fashion community just functions at a different level. There's so much information that they carry around with them. And it really has been amazing, with the whole knowledge sharing and, encouraging one another's journey. So utilize every resource that you can.
Okay. I love like talking about things that are other people are passionate about because it makes me a better human and I learn a lot.
Yeah.
And just like
Okay.
I love those conversations.
For sure. And two, if you like, get yourself a sustainable mentor. If you have somebody to email or like text message to ask questions, do that. I feel like at the beginning of my journey, I had one person who I would text that she was also studying sustainable fashion. I would text her like, hey, is this brand ethical? Is this brand sustainable? Like just random, throughout the day. And she was so like kind to pour into me. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you definitely need somebody because it can get overwhelming. There's so much information out there, so many companies. So, what's the craziest fact that you found about waste or animal cruelty or human abuse that will make the listeners really consider their shopping choices?
If you don't know what the incident with Rana Plaza is, you need to look it up because that for me was the turning point. Like, I don't even know. I wasn't questioning. I knew that there was some indecencies, but the fall of Rana Plaza was it killed so many people. And there were so many factory workers and there were warning signs prior to, but nobody listened because their lives are not valued. And so for me, that was like, oh Lord, this is so much. So if you don't know what that is, take a minute, take 5 minutes. It's only 5 minutes. If you find a quick article about Rana Plaza, look into it, read it, and then tell me that you're going to still have the same shopping choices because it's life changing.
I don't know about it, but now I have to
Yes.
read it.
Yes, I will check up.
Okay. Um, so what advice would you give to the listeners as the first step into making environmental choices? Besides like reading about it, like physically products or something.
Yeah, I would really say like don't overwhelm yourself because when you first start on any sustainable journey, it can be so daunting. And if you're like me, my brain is it's all over the place, right? And so I think of things in terms of like big picture, and it's like you get anxiety. Where do I even begin? You know what I mean?
That's what
So
I'm
what
thinking right now.
Yes, like where do I start? I would say first things first, you can join a challenge. I dove into this thing called No New Clothes, and I did no new clothes for the first 30 days. But in those 30 days, whenever I would shop, I used that time to research. Like what are some better brands, right? And I want to really stress sustainable fashion is not about like perfection, it's about progress. And also no one way is like right. Some people choose to shop only vintage fashion. Other people choose to shop thrift clothes. I buy everything thrifted if I do buy. Sustainable fashion really is about like just reducing our consumption and really figuring out what's driving your choices. That's all it is. It doesn't mean you have to buy pricey, sustainable brands. It just means you need to take an extra moment to think about why you're buying something before you purchase it. And
Yeah,
then like replace one thing at a time, you know?
yeah. Sometimes I feel like it just becomes a habit shopping, or just because you're bored, or
Yeah.
people are addicted to shopping just
Yeah.
because, and
It
they don't
is.
actually need all those clothes.
It becomes an addiction. I had a shopping addiction. This is why I think it hit so hard because I'm like, oh Lord, this is yeah, I contributed to a lot of this. And I feel like the culture that we live in tells us that we need to work to be, prettier, skinnier, smarter. We need more degrees, bigger house, bigger car. None of that stuff matters. It doesn't matter. It's just stuff. So we need to stop trying to be, like I said, qualified and accepted and start working on becoming more aligned with who we are, our true selves. So doing a lot of like soul work and digging and healing, all of that, because you're in there. You're in there. You've just been so buried by all the BS around us. So, I just use your resources, therapy, coaching, accountability, whatever, just heal because that's also going to help you with your choices later down the road.
This is a side note, but do you do meditation or yoga?
Yes, yes, I do. And I teach my babies to do the same thing. We do a ton of grounding, like really connecting with nature. We have these huge trees in our backyard and we go sit under there and really try to connect to them because I need them to understand. I feel like humans have lost sight with we've separated ourselves from nature, right? Like, oh, nature's so
Yeah.
beautiful. The outdoors are so beautiful. You are that. You are nature. You are part of all of that. So we have to create that connection again. Like you are the grass, you are the trees, you are that, you are part of that. So just really like taking time to ground and release all the negative and I don't know, just get back to the basics.
Yeah, I feel everyone needs to do meditation because we're all like on our phones, social media, subscription things like Netflix,
Oh
like
yeah.
the patience. There's no patience anymore. We can't watch a commercial because we're
Yeah.
like, this is boring. I think
Yeah.
everyone needs to go back to like just nature, be
Yeah.
barefoot for a little bit.
Yep, for sure, Jen. Like that is the root cause for why we're in the predicament we're in with the fashion industry because people want immediate gratification. They just want right away. We have phones that tell us answers right away. You can call somebody right away. All of that like drives this thing in our brains that it lights up the little dopamine section that says, hey, immediate gratification feels good. So I want to buy something new. So I'm going to continue doing that over and over and over because it feels good.
Yeah. So, what is something you want to leave the listeners with? Information about your projects, last inspirational words.
Yeah, like I said, I'll reiterate, just do the work, um, do the soul work because you can make a ton of changes on the surface and say, oh, I'm going to live more sustainably, but knowing the why behind it is really what's going to make it last. You know what I mean? Sustainable is the default. We should all be living sustainable, right? It's just we got to figure out how we got to the point to where we weren't.
I feel like it all goes back to knowing who you are and figuring out what your problem is.
Yes, yes.
All right. So, last question. What do you love about Arizona? What specific local business or location?
Sure. So obviously, like I love the sustainable fashion community here. So they're open and accepting and just encouraging. But I also love all of the opportunities we have to get outdoors, to hike. All of the beautiful landmarks we have here. Sedona is probably one of my favorite places to go to. I feel like it's so therapeutic, healing, just to get out there and just sit outside forever. We go outdoor camping a whole bunch and like dry camping in the middle of the forest. So like it just feels so good to just be out there and away from absolutely everything. And then as far as like local businesses, I might be a little biased, but some of my favorites are like I said, Redemption Market, Shop Revari, Envy Collective, Fair Trade Cafe is one of my favorites. Urban Beans Cafe, if you're gluten-free, they have amazing gluten-free scones. The Coronado is another one, a vegan restaurant, and it's so good. I could go on and on with these, but yeah.
I love Sedona. It's so therapeutic. I'm into crystals now, so I get my crystals there too.
Very cool.
And just like the nature of it all.
Yes. Yeah. Sedona is definitely a healing vortex. That's for sure. I know you said you're into crystals and stuff, but there is this like energy healing coach named Danielle Laporte. I'll send you her information, but you can follow her and her website. And it's so good. She does like free meditation webinars, and she's just so good. So she's my go-to. She doesn't know she is, but she is.
That's fine. They don't need to know.
No.
Well, that's it. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks, Jen,
And being my first guinea pig.
Yeah, I know. Good luck. Let me know how I can support you throughout your journey.
All right. Thank you. Stop recording. Is that right? Thanks for joining me for this week's episode of Gen Next Door Podcast. I really enjoyed speaking with Stella Abril about how to make smart fashion choices that will impact the planet and the people that live in it. If you also like this episode, please share with friends and family. Also, leave a review on Apple Podcasts and follow me so you can listen to future episodes. I'm Jennifer Otero. Thanks for listening, and talk to you soon.